Success starts up here, and that's what we're going to get into today. I'm going to turn your brain into a 7-figure business building brain. We're going to get inside some concepts, some habits that I've developed over the years coming out of homelessness into building multiple million-dollar businesses. So we're going to cover some topics like mindfulness, self-awareness, and lastly, my favorite thing that nobody ever knows when I bring it up to them when discussing self-awareness is your Johari window. So I'm going to show you how to make it happen up here, no cost. This is what you can do every day, and you'll become 10 times the person you were just because you understand how your brain works. Let's jump right in. All right, welcome back Airbnb family. We're talking a few concepts. We're talking about mindfulness and self-awareness, but by the end of this video, we're gonna introduce another concept, a heuristic model of the Johari window. And if you don't know what that is, awesome, because I love teaching people about their Johari window. Did you know that there's 4 of you? Did you know that there's actually 4 of you inside your brain? It's really cool. So let's start with mindfulness. Mindfulness is simply the state of being aware of what's going on around you. It is not the same as self-awareness at all, okay? Self-awareness is understanding your own motives, desires, feelings, thoughts, understanding your behaviors and your whys. That's self-awareness. But mindfulness is being aware of what's around you. And see, the power of mindfulness is to be socially aware. I grew up in a way on sales, right? So since 2007, I've been selling newspaper subscriptions, and I made 6 figures my first year selling newspaper subscriptions. My key to this was that I was an introvert most of my life, and I had to learn to become an extroverted person to sell. Being an introvert, you're usually on the outside of situations, watching people from a third-party perspective. It's a lot more easy to be mindful of your surroundings when you're an introvert because you're not the one engaging in combat, verbally or otherwise. You're not the one engaging people. A lot of extroverts get tunnel vision, right? So as an introvert, if you already have an advantage here. For those of you who are extroverted, I want you to kind of back up and take this approach and focus on the concept of mindfulness here. We're going to look at things you don't typically look at, all right? So as a salesperson, when somebody changes their body language, for example, their body language closes off or the body language opens up. Did you know that this is actually kind of closed off body language? This is I don't want to be seen crossing my arms, but this is an equivalent of crossing my arms. That's closed off body language as well. You can see that somebody's like leaning back or constantly looking at something else. You can see that they're disinterested. And when engaging people and trying to influence them to see your side of things in order to get them to make a purchase, in order to get them to give you money for your business, knowing where they are and what their buying temperature is super important. And mindfulness helps you become aware of all factors. Instead of just focusing on sales techniques, which you can learn on almost any YouTube channel that talks about sales, mindfulness is this groundwork that allows you to, by habit, become more, not just empathetic, but more compassionate and more aware of your surroundings. It's something you can research, and I'm gonna give you a link in the description on how to build up your mindfulness. Now, self-awareness. There are 3 layers to self-awareness. And self-awareness, like I said, is your understanding of your own thoughts and desires. But it's not so simple, and a lot of people don't really ever study self-awareness. It's not something that they focus on. So being aware first off of what it is that you're doing, what is your action. Self-awareness is really good for habit breaking. So being aware of the fact that you're staring at Instagram for 20 minutes, right? Like, oops, I'm like, that coming out of your autopilot mode is super important. So being aware of what it is that you're doing minute by minute, and you're training your brain to constantly get out of autopilot, to constantly check itself, to be aware that you exist. And a lot of times when we get into things that are addictive and have loops like Facebook or Instagram, you end up getting sucked in, and it wastes your time because you're not aware of what it is that you're doing. You keep getting these sensories through your eyeballs, and it's like new pictures, new video, new notifications, and it kind of sucks you in. It gives you that tunnel vision, right? You're not being mindful or aware. So building up self-awareness, first off, train your body to constantly do a scan. What it is that I'm doing? What is it that I'm doing? Now, if you find yourself constantly being pulled back in, you're on Instagram for 2 minutes and you pull away and you get back on it again, The next level of self-awareness is, what are my desires? What is it that I want? What am I feeling? Your impulses and your desires are driving that behavior. So by being aware of what it is that you feel like you're missing, you can develop better habits to replace those things. If you can actively satiate your desires, without having to get on social media, you won't end up in a trap, right? On a social media trap. So for example, if you feel the need to have tactile stimuli and you go to your phone, well, there's so many other things you can do. Like I can play guitar. You can flip through a book instead of going through your phone. I think that's much better, and it's more targeted content. If you feel the need to interact with people socially, go take a walk, go to a coffee shop, and just try to make conversation with random strangers. It's much better than just reading other people's Facebook feed. I was having this conversation with some strangers actually a few days ago, and in this conversation, my buddy Sean Ray and I were talking to this group, and we mentioned that the reason why we decided to make conversation with their group is because people don't attempt to make friends with strangers anymore. What we are is we're too busy, right? We go through our life, there's so many stresses, there's all these things that we have to do just to get by. There's a quote that I remember reading online, and it's like, why is being alive so expensive? I'm not even having fun. And that's kind of how a lot of people I know feel, is they're putting so much time and energy, effort and money into just existing and paying their rent and getting by. They're not enjoying themselves. So what do? After that 10 hours of having a really rough day, they're too exhausted because they're not living in their truth. They're not doing what it is that they truly want to do, and they go through social media and try to live vicariously through other people, and they like some things. They try to post something that has significance. So like, I want to say something that sounds like I'm having a good life, and I want to say something deep and try to get some likes. And they put some effort into social media, having fake social interactions, because social media is not truly having companionship, and then they let it go. And that's their shallow replacement for companionship, and then they start that loop the next day. And we wonder why people are depressed, right? So that's layer 2, understanding your desires. Your desires are driving your actions, and social media tends to be a low-hanging fruit to kind of fill those desires. So start training your brain to understand, and take the hard path to recovery on that, if this is something that you're working through. Now, the third is understanding your blind spots. A wise man knows that he does not know. And this is where you want to get to. What is it that you're unaware of? You're just not capable of seeing it yourself. And we have friends like this, right? Where they can give the best relationship advice, but then their relationships fail. How about that? So a lot of successful people have coaches. We will have success coaches, life coaches, vocal coaches. It's the best musicians that I've ever trained with, and never trained with because they're too good to go to the same schools as me. They still have vocal coaches. You don't think that your favorite artist, like one of my favorites is Josh Groban, he has a vocal coach because his instrument has to stay on point, and he's not capable of seeing his whole entire vocal from the inside, right? Same thing. Be aware of your blind spots. Recruit accountability partners. Recruit people to mentor you and to see you for who you are. That way you can fill out that whole person. And seeing you for who you are from the outside brings me to my favorite part of this talk, which is the Johari window. There are 4 identities that you need to be aware of in yourself. And this is super fun, and how they play with each other is great. By the way, like this video. I forgot way back minutes ago. I should have asked you to like this video. And by the end of this Johari window, you're going to forget to like this video. So do it, because you're probably going to start Googling some things if you're like me. So, liked it? Thank you. Johari window number 1 is your conscious self-awareness. That is, I see myself a certain way, and I'm aware of that self that I see. So, I'd be like, well, I'm 6 foot tall, and I'm male, and I'm this age, and this is my hair color, and this is how I look from the outside, right? This is how I see myself. And I'm funny, or I'm serious, or I'm super chatty, or I'm afraid to talk to people. And these are things that you know that you can see, and you think that other people can see too, right? So that is your conscious self-awareness. Now, there's another self that you're conscious of that you may not agree with. This is your conscious awareness from other people's perspectives. Okay, so other people see you differently. And if you feel misunderstood by people, it's because you see a certain you, and you know that they see a different you, and you think that different you is wrong, right? That's a commonplace situation. But being aware of how other people see you influences your behavior. So for example, when you meet new people, you use your third Johari window. Your third Johari window is your non-existent archetypal self, the self that other people don't see and you wish that they would, because you think it's your best self. So if you think that the best version of you is, more boisterous and more confident and all these different things, you'll lead with that third window. And you're going to be untrue to the real, baseline version of you in order to influence that second window, which is what people consciously understand of you. So by doing that, you're trying to change the second window by behaving in a archetypal way, which is maybe not a way that is actually who you are. And a lot of times, this is why relationships fail, is we like to lead with our best of our best, but we'll try to expand on things that we think are our best and try to exaggerate them, and they become what we actually aren't. It's an unsustainable version of ourselves, and people fall back into habit weeks or months later, and the people that they're friends with now, or the people that they've earned company from, they will realize that that person's changed, and usually for the worse. And in this case, it'll cause you to lose those new relationships, those new friendships, because you were living a lie, essentially. And I see that a lot in Dallas, or I used to more see that in Dallas. People would lead first 30 seconds, like they have their resume in their hand, kind of. With the handshake, they'll be like, this is who I am, this is the best of me, know that I'm important. And because there's a lot of social pressure in big cities, and that's why also you'll see that groups get smaller, right? If you grew up in a small town like I did, everybody knew each other, right? And everybody was to some degree invested in each other's lives and kept up. The bigger the city gets, the more that social pressure gets, the more people behave differently and start guarding their identities and kind of guarding that truth because they're afraid of being found out for not being as awesome as a lot of the people that they see in the city or that they see on social media. And that's a damaging part of your Johari window, is to be so reliant on a person that you haven't become yet. And in order to pretty much affect the second window, you should be more focused on improving yourself instead of trying to advertise an archetypal version of yourself. Now, the true you, the one that actually exists, the one that is under no manipulation whatsoever, is your fourth window. It's your unconscious, unseen self. Your unconscious, unseen self is who you are when no one's looking, right? So you're at home. You're reading a book, and you close the book, you walk into your kitchen, open up the fridge, and next thing you know, you're singing Hungry Eyes, and nobody's around to hear you sing that song. But for some reason, opening up the fridge made you think that song. I've got a buddy named Mike. He does that exact thing. He does it in front of people. He does it when he's alone, because he has accepted himself for who he is, and he doesn't try to manipulate himself among friends. I mean, in certain social situations, he of course tries to lead with a more confident self, like he puffs up his chest and he's always smiling and nodding, and he's trying to make sure that in that social situation, he looks like the joyous person, the most joyous person you can meet, because he went through a brutal car accident, right? Broke his neck, and it cost him his optimism for a long, long time. And he knows that what everybody loved about him before the car accident was he was funny, and he was uplifting, and he was encouraging. And he was afraid that he was losing that part of himself because of this brutal car accident. It affected his relationships, and of course, his whole physique changed. You break your leg, your neck, and you're in a body, chest, turtle shell thing and a neck brace. You're just not the same person. And he had to deal with that. And of course, so now, on the back end, for years, he would lead with this past version of himself in order to try to get back into it. And now there's some merit to that. It's called anchoring state, and we're going to do that in a future video, because I'm going to teach you some hacks on how you can improve your mental state and adjust your mental state situation to situation. But in this case, just simply being aware that you have multiple identities that you have to manage in order to grow as a person, this should be super powerful for you. This is called the Johari window, Johari window. Blend those with self-awareness and mindfulness, and you'll be good. All right, so take this video as growth and do your homework. Continue to grow, because the path to success starts here. And once again, I will see you on the other side.